welcome back to a special episode of These Aren't the Nerds You're Looking For. I'm Lorenzo Fon, sitting here with...
Kevin Horde, hi.
Yeah. So we're doing a special episode because a few weeks ago at San Diego Comic-Con, some very special news was announced. Dave Filoni was there to present for a 10th anniversary celebration of the Clone Wars, and while he was on stage, he announced a trailer for brand new episodes of Clone Wars, and that Clone Wars was coming back, and that it was saved. So we're gonna, being that we talk about the Clone Wars, we figured Kevin and I, we should probably talk about it. It's kind of annoying because I was at San Diego Comic-Con. I was not in the room when they made this announcement. Unfortunately, it was scheduled the same time as the Doctor Who presentation, and I was there to see me some Jodie Whittaker. So, but anyways, we are getting the news. We got the news pretty much. Kevin and I talked about it while I was there, and the reason for the delay in recording this reaction is because I rolled my Comic-Con experience into a 3-week vacation that lasted afterwards. So, but here we are. We're going to talk about what we saw. The trailer's out. So, if you haven't seen the trailer, I think we'll do a recap of the trailer.
Yeah, I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to queue up the trailer, and then when we get to it, I'm going to hit play, and I'm just going to give some audio commentary of what's going on in the trailer as it plays for 2 minutes and 43 seconds, and then we will talk about it from there, if that works for you, Lorenzo?
Sounds good. And go for it.
What do you think about putting this out on Wednesday, August 15th, the actual 10th anniversary of
That's
the Clone
pretty
Wars?
much what I was maybe thinking, just to do a double release. So I'll put Storms Over Ryloth as the first episode, and I'll have this one follow up.
Cool.
Yeah.
Awesome.
That's the order we're recording them in, so it just kind of seems to flow well. So,
yeah, for sure. Do you want me to just jump straight into this?
Yeah, let's jump right into it and see what we got.
Okay. I'll just give a countdown in. I doubt that anybody is actually going to hit play and watch this trailer along with us, but that's okay. Are you going to be watching it at the same time?
No, I'm just going to listen to your description.
Awesome. Wow.
Go for it.
Let's get into this. 1, 2, 3, play. So we have the Lucasfilm LTD, the new, not chrome one, but like the I don't know, the gray one.
Mm-hmm.
We've got some clones walking away from us. Rex is giving us a voiceover. We got some chatter. We kind of zoom out from Rex's helmet as he is talking about the clones and the Clone Wars. We got some shinies, Commanda. So we're zooming back, or I guess we're pulling back, and it's just lines and lines and lines of clone trooper helmets. There's some, looks like missiles shooting back and forth in the background. We got one that's getting closer to us. We got one coming straight at us. I think this one's going to hit and blows up all these clone helmets. Fade to black. Text, award left unfinished until now. There's an ellipses with a period in the middle there. I think it should just be an ellipses. Looks like we got a lat flying in to some sort of base. What do we got here? We got clones all over the place. We got Anakin with some long episode 3 hair. Revenge of the Sith. He is flanked by 2 people. One is Rex. One is, it looks like a commando, maybe. Some ships take off, and then we get the Clone Wars logo. Anakin's walking down a hall with Obi-Wan Kenobi talking to Rex, and now we get the nice reveal of Ahsoka. A nice aged Ahsoka. She's grown up a little bit. She's standing next to a Mandalorian. Hashtag Clone Wars saved.
Yep.
Her comment is, what does Anakin say? He says, "All right, Rex, what's so important you brought us all the way back here?"
Mm-hmm.
Ahsoka turns around and says,
Yep.
"Hello, Master. It's been a while."
Yep. All right. So the timing is interesting, being that Rebels has concluded. We got news that Resistance would be an animated show that would be premiering this upcoming season.
Yeah, and that's we got a release date on that, right? October 13th?
October, yes.
Yeah.
So in my mind, I always saw that as like the Rebels replacement in terms of Star Wars animated series.
Right, for sure.
So with this trailer drop, we don't have a date. We don't have anything. We just know that it's coming back.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it could be next year. It could be 2 years from now. You know, but I like that Disney was chill with them saying like, oh yeah, like we threw that out of canon for a hot second. We brought it back in, and I guess we should probably let you finish this now.
Yeah, man. When just by chance I happened to like hop on Twitter, and saw, you know, like an SDCC update or something, and saw the trailer or watched the trailer via a link on Twitter within minutes of when it had hit the internet, right?
Of course, yeah.
And it gave me goosebumps, and I was so fucking excited. Yeah, I don't know. At that point, like my thumbs didn't work right when I was trying to type messages out to people, and
yeah,
I think I texted you, and I texted some other people, and at that time you hadn't seen the trailer yet, right?
I hadn't seen it for a few days.
Oh, that's
because
right. I was pissed.
Yeah, you kept asking me.
I'm like, watch the fucking trailer. Watch the fucking trailer.
It's because I was in the haze of Comic-Con where, like, I was watching the Doctor Who panel, and then, like, Hall H started with, like, the Predator panel, then led into Doctor Who, and then I went to, like, John Barrowman, and then I think it was during John Barrowman, like, I had my phone. I think I threw my phone into airplane mode. Because, you know, iPhones do the, like, really fucking annoying thing where if somebody calls you, then it stops video recording.
Yeah.
It, like, cuts the video recording, and I don't like that. So when I know I'm going to be doing some video recording, I automatically throw my phone into airplane mode.
I guess that makes sense.
So I had it off for a while because I'm taking pictures of John Barrowman. I'm a huge fan of him, by the way. Obviously, I was in the fucking Doctor Who panel, and with Barrowman following that up. If you've ever been to Comic-Con and you've never seen a John Barrowman panel, it's the best. It's the fucking best. And it annoys me that he only goes for like a single hour because he's hilarious and he always seems so genuine and so honest. That's a very different side tangent. But then I throw my phone off of airplane and I got a message from you and my other buddy Greg, who's also a massive Star Wars fan. And from both of you guys, I just get like a barrage of messages as they're coming back in, like, Clone Wars is fucking back, there's a trailer, blah, blah, blah.
Hashtag Clone Wars saved. What the fuck? Why aren't you responding?
Clone Wars saved. Yeah.
Have you watched it yet?
And I'm just like in this haze of all this other shit that's happening. And because of that, I didn't actually get to sit down to watch it because, like, number one, I didn't have my headphones with me, and I'm not a guy to, like, watch something on my phone and like loudly blare the audio from it.
I'm just saying, at some point in time, I'm sure you had to use the bathroom, and that would have been a prime time to sit down and relax for 2 minutes, 43 seconds.
No, man, there was way too much else happening. It's like, and it, you know, I'm not saying that it wasn't important to me. It was just like there was so much else in front of me at the moment that I needed to focus on that shit and give Clone Wars like its proper headspace to like sit down and watch a trailer for it, right?
Right.
I think by the time I did watch the trailer, I think it was Saturday morning. So the trailer premiered on the Thursday. It was day one Comic-Con.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm trying to remember what happened Friday. It's like it's all a blur. This is what happens every Comic-Con. It all blurs into one giant homologous little thing. I think like
this is what happens when you take 3 weeks off of work and you have no concept of time anymore.
Oh yeah, all time. Like there are no starts or ends to weeks at all anymore. You know, but Saturday was the day I waited to go into Ballroom 20 to do. I was in there for all the CW shows. Huge Simpsons fan. And Hall H Saturday this year was super lame. Other like WB kicked off Hall H Saturday, but there was nothing else in there that interested me. So I dedicated myself to Ballroom 20, and then at some point while I was waiting that morning for Ballroom 20, I sat with my phone and watched it. 2.5 days later, and then that's when you're finally like, thank God, Lorenzo.
Like, holy shit, it took you long enough.
Yeah, because finally for a second I was like, oh, I'm going to sit here waiting for Ballroom 20 for the next 3 hours. Maybe this is the chance.
So what was your initial reaction then?
I think I'm going to describe it the same way I've described like my first, I can't remember if we talked about it on the show, but my first viewing of Force Awakens.
Okay.
I remember not feeling anything. And I don't know how else to describe it, where it's like, it took me like 3 viewings of Force Awakens to kind of actually love it. And it's not because I couldn't tell that it was a good movie the first viewing out.
Oh, okay, so you're talking about the movie in general, not just the trailer.
Not just the trailer,
okay.
Just like the movie in general. Like, after my first viewing of Force Awakens in a movie theater, it was more of like a sitting there and like going, holy shit, there actually was a new Star Wars movie. Right?
Yeah, my first reaction to The Force Awakens was that it sucked.
Really?
Yes.
Like, I just sat there kind of numb, like, I didn't know how to react because, like, I was trying to push away my expectations and just accept what had been put there. I kind of feel the same way about this trailer, where, like, I didn't lose my mind. I didn't go fucking nuts for it, but only because I was like, I had gotten the news that the show was back, you know, and I think the reason I wanted to give some context to my first viewing of it is because I had had 2 days of knowing that Clone Wars was back. So my initial reaction to that news was definitely like, I stopped. I was like, hold up, wait. Say what? You know, like, I was excited. I was excited with the news. By the time I got to watching the trailer, you know, I was just more in a mode of like, holy shit, it's coming back. You know, I didn't lose my mind. I was, you know, like, I kind of, knowing that the show is back and knowing that there's a trailer for it, you kind of know what a trailer might do for a show that's getting revived like that, you know? So the reveal of Ahsoka, you know, and it didn't, again, this is not the trailer's fault. I think the trailer does everything that it needs to do. But for me, it was like, yes, okay, this is great. Ahsoka's coming back. They're like, we're going to close these fucking loops.
So do you think that this is just a means to wrap up some loose ends? Or do you think that there is a potential for the Clone Wars to continue in addition to just this, we'll call it 7th season?
See, so here's my, again, now that we've had some time to think about it, like 3 solid weeks here, or maybe even more. What I find curious is that, to me, Rebels kind of wrapped it all up for the most part. Rebels still kind of left some spoilers for last season of Rebels. It still left some open loops. Yeah.
Sorry, I just cut Lorenzo off because I do want to say I still have not finished the last half of season 4 of Rebels.
Yeah, I won't get into details knowing that. But, there are still open loops being Star Wars, right?
Right.
The universe is big. But to me, what I always saw Rebels as, and as despite doing this podcast, a not massive fan of Clone Wars. Right? I'm a massive fan of Star Wars as a whole. Clone Wars, I did my one view through. There are a few episodes I absolutely love, but as a whole, I'm lukewarm to the series.
And to remind our listeners, I did have to coax you quite a bit into doing this project.
Clone Wars specific podcast, yes.
And it was, I think it was us sitting down at Star Wars Convention Orlando in 2017?
Just last year, yes, 2017, yeah.
And you were talking all about Rebels, and I hadn't seen any of it yet, and you're like, dude, you gotta fucking watch Rebels. You gotta fucking watch Rebels. And I was all, dude, you gotta rewatch the Clone Wars. You gotta rewatch the Clone Wars. And that conversation kind of definitely fueled me to revisit or to watch Rebels in general, and then to go back and revisit the Clone Wars, which is where this passion project kind of came from to begin with. Was my passion for the Clone Wars and your passion for Rebels.
Yes. So that said, to me, Rebels was Filoni doing everything he could to close any open loops from Clone Wars.
Okay.
So the reintroduction of Rex and the reintroduction of Ahsoka into Rebels, to me, was definitely like a clear sign of Filoni kind of giving his tip of the hat.
He had more stories that he wanted to tell with them.
Yes. Yeah. And Rebels was the new conduit in which to do that. So I find it curious that we're going to kind of step back again into this era, this post-Attack of the Clones, possibly pre-Revenge of the Sith, or maybe concurrent to.
Yeah, that leads me to one question that I was going to bring up. Is Ahsoka says it's been a while, it's been a long time. Mm-hmm. Right. Something to that effect. Visually, Anakin has longer hair. He's got the he's got the neck / shoulder length emo hair puff of Revenge of the Sith. Mm-hmm. Obi-Wan looks a little fuller in the face. His beard's a little longer. He looks aged as well. Mm-hmm. Doesn't have quite as much gray from what I saw.
No.
As he does in Revenge of the Sith. Ahsoka is, and it's been a long time since I've seen the Lost Missions, season 6 of the Clone Wars. So I don't remember exactly what Ahsoka looked like then. It's also been a little bit since I've seen Rebels, so I don't remember exactly what Ahsoka looked like then. But I'm thinking this is, I feel like she's closer to the Rebels Ahsoka than any Clone Wars Ahsoka.
No, to me, her character model, I think it's an issue of the different art styles.
Okay,
too.
for sure.
But she's like the height that she is in Rebels, but with the face structure that she still had in Clone Wars. Does that make sense?
It does.
Because her face kind of elongates for Rebels, is how they kind of adult her up. Her face kind of stretches.
Okay, that's interesting.
It's not like the same like cute teenager proportions that they do, especially at the beginning of Clone Wars.
Right.
But she definitely seems more adulted, for sure, versus the earlier seasons. But I do find it interesting that for all the character models, they definitely go back to the art style of Clone Wars. This is definitely a continuation of Clone Wars. It's not the art style of Rebels, but telling the rest of Clone Wars stories. You know?
Right.
So they go back to like that wooden block look, which I always loved a lot more than the art style for Rebels. I really liked that style.
Yeah. And speaking of the wooden block style, this was I've watched this trailer now, I don't know, 7, 8, 9, 10 times, somewhere around there. Mm-hmm. It was smoother in fluidity of animation.
Yes.
And I felt like it was the character models were less of the marionation,
mm-hmm.
but it still had that feel. I don't know if I would call it like an updated technique of modeling or what, but it definitely is maybe just a step sideways from what we've been seeing in the Clone Wars as we've been reviewing. So I don't know if that is deliberate or if that's just like a technology thing or a rendering thing or how that works. Because I mean, I guess what I'm trying to say is clearly they didn't just pick their assets from the old show mm-hmm. and do a repaint and throw them into this. There's something different there.
I agree. Like, if anything, even like when it comes down to like the lighting and the shading, you know, the textures definitely look more crisp. It's, you know, we're talking like since the last season, 4 or 5 years of technological advances.
Since the last season of Clone Wars? That mm-hmm. came out in 2014, 2015, maybe it was released. So, I mean, it would have been produced in 13 to 14-ish, like somewhere around there. So, yeah. My question to you is, how much of this show do you think is already done?
See, this is hard to tell because there's no date. I haven't looked into anything beyond just the fact that it exists, right? Like, I haven't dug into it. I know, like, on the Star Wars show, Filoni has done an interview, but I have no idea what was revealed there. Again, I've been busy on a vacation. So I have no information there.
I'm gonna do a little research while you're talking to see if I can get
But again, I'm curious because again, in my head I was all set on Resistance, right? Like Resistance was coming out this fall and I felt like that was going to be a good focus. Especially in terms of what Disney's trying to do, which is kind of unify their post Return of the Jedi Star Wars universe, right? As being like the current universe. Even though the entire story is all mythologically taking place in the past. But in terms of we've talked about it before, but like their approach to like the theme parks, right? Like the timeline, like for the theme park area to be canon, it's gonna have to be affected by whatever happens in these movies, correct?
Right. And as a side note, mm-hmm. I am a huge fan of the interconnectivity of media and the fluidity of continuity that is going on right now.
Yeah.
It's a big bummer to me that the old EU was used to wipe the ass of Mickey Mouse.
Mm-hmm.
I was not a fan of that. When I got over that, moving forward, everything having this connective tissue, I think is awesome.
Yeah.
I do think that connecting it to the Disney theme parks may be a half a step to a full step too far.
Mm-hmm.
Like,
Why do you think that?
Because I don't know. It's just like, can we let the media of comic books and novels and novellas and film and TV and short stories and everything else, can we let that stand alone from the Disney parks? Is that okay? Like, does Star Wars Edge, like, it's cool that it represents Batu, and like you can get this feeling of like I'm going, I can immerse myself in this environment for entertainment purposes, but to bring it into the continuity of the entire story, I feel it's a little bit of a stretch, is all I'm saying.
The only reason it sits okay with me is because they're starting to fill it in. Like I said in the Solo episode, they mentioned Black Spire. This is exactly where the theme park area is taking place.
Mm-hmm.
So I feel that it's fine for the movies to inform the theme parks, and in some degree, the theme parks are now informing the canon itself. And I think with a property like Star Wars, it has to be one universe, including a physical location that we here on Earth can get to.
Okay.
Because the flip side is what Disney parks are also doing with Marvel.
Okay.
Which is to say that anything ride-based on Marvel exists in its own universe unto itself. So whatever happens to Baby Groot on the Guardians of the Galaxy ride in Disney California Adventure,
right,
it's not affected by the movies, nor does it affect what happens in the movies. Right. So that's another weird disconnect, and to me, that's fine on that level, because there are so many changes within the Marvel universe that it's hard to keep up with that. But with something like Star Wars, where this is an outpost that nobody goes to and it's just there, that's fine, right? So then the reason I kind of bring up is I find it interesting that Disney's going to consider, episodes 7, 8, 9 as what we would call like the modern. I mean, they are modern Star Wars movies, but in terms of era to be representing. When you walk around Tomorrowland, the stormtroopers that are walking around are the new helmeted...
The First Order troopers?
Yeah, the First Order troopers, yes.
Okay.
Not troopers that you would have seen in, like, Rogue One or, Episode 4, 5, 6, right?
Yeah. So...
And there definitely aren't clone troopers walking around, right?
Speaking
of...
So
then... Yeah.
Sorry, go ahead.
So in terms of like moving forward, so like let's say like episode 10 does another like 20-year time jump or something like that.
Do you think that there will be an episode 10? I thought that like the episodic adventure was going to stop at 9.
I mean, I think here's what I got. So this is older information, but they never referred to, or I won't say never, but they recently have stopped referring to 7, 8, 9 as a trilogy. They refer to them as the episodic Skywalker saga.
Interesting.
That will be the main line, right? So it's like it's a reverse of Marvel. Whereas Marvel, you have these smaller movies, and then every now and then you have Avengers. Star Wars is like the reverse of that, where you have your main line stories of 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. and then they're gonna supplement it with the Rogue One solo, like Obi-Wan movie, right? So Kathleen Kennedy has always referred to the numbered series. That's how they wanted to just make sure when Rogue One came out that people understood what it was, because, you know, for people like you and myself who pay attention to these things, it's a very clear cut to us.
Right.
But then for many other people where they see, you know, I mean, hell, even my boss before Rogue One came out was like, okay, so we got Force Awakens. We're going to see what happens with Luke in this one, right? I'm like, no, what the actual fuck are you talking about? Like, no.
It was pretty
and he's a Star Wars
confusing.
fan. And he's a Star Wars fan, you know? So that's what I'm saying.
You
like,
should know better.
To the layperson, these minute details aren't things people are following. So that's why they were making a clear push. It's like, hey, this is episode 7, this is episode 8. Rogue One is not an episode. This is not a mainline thing, you know? So they're setting up these hierarchies of whatever, you know? So, yeah, so it sounds like from the last few things Mark Hamill has said that this will be his last Star Wars. This for sure is John Williams' last Star Wars, right?
Right.
He just wants to end it on like a nice trilogy of trilogies for him.
How old is John Williams?
He's in his early to mid 80s, I believe.
Okay. He's been doing this a long time.
Yeah, he's been doing this for a while. I mean, he started in the industry playing piano for Henry Mancini scoring Blake Edwards films, you know? So, like, he's, I think, the piano player on either, like, Breakfast at Tiffany's or Pink Panther or something like that. So, he's been at this for a goddamn long time.
Right.
By virtue that both Blake Edwards and Henry Mancini are fucking dead, you know, like, Julie Andrews still kicking around though, so, Blake Edwards' wife before he passed away.
Hey, there you go.
So, anyways, yeah, John Williams, if you close that out at a trilogy of trilogies, that's fantastic. But, yeah, so anyways, where was I going with that? Yeah, so anyways, yeah, like, so moving forward, you know, if there's a time jump or if there's anything else that changes, like, it has to be reflected in the theme parks, and I'm gonna find that interesting. But if anything, it's gonna make that land, I feel like, when it comes to theme park standards, I think it's gonna make that area feel more alive and current, no matter what decade we're in for the next 50 decades, or for the next 5 decades or whatever, right? For the next 50 years, you know. Whereas, like, already for like the last 5 years, the Harry Potter Wizarding World stuff, it's definitely stuck in its own time warp. You know what I mean? It's in its own sliding time scale.
Right.
Does that make sense? Where it's like the ride always has Harry Potter on it while he's at Hogwarts.
Right.
He's not getting older, right?
Right.
It's in its own like Simpsons-esque sliding timeline.
Right.
You know, where it's 1997 every year. You know, like.
Right. Even though the movie came out in 2006.
Right. Yeah. So you get what I'm saying. Like I find that very interesting. So this was a long way of me getting to the point where I find it interesting that Disney is allowing Filoni to take a step back and close out the Clone Wars stuff that he started pre-Disney, right?
So I have a quote from Dave Filoni about the trailer.
Mm-hmm.
He said, "It's 4 shots, really, and there's a lot in those 4 shots that I put in there specifically for people to decrypt over the next however long it is until this thing comes out."
So even he doesn't have a...
From what I've seen, and I think this is going to be the launching inauguration point of the Disney streaming service, because this isn't Netflix, this isn't broadcast television, this isn't cable, this is essentially Disney streaming services first produced
like
show.
original
Original
that
production.
service.
Right. So
All right. That makes a lot of sense.
And supposedly that is supposed to launch in 2019.
Yeah.
Now, with the rumors of Disney looking to buy Hulu, and I don't know what's going on with that. Have you heard that?
Well, by virtue of them purchasing 20th Century Fox once, I mean, it's a done deal, but I believe there is still like the final T's that need to be crossed and the final I's that need to be dotted. So I don't want to say that like, oh, they have it, even of this recording. By virtue of that, they will have a majority share in Hulu.
Right.
So
But
whether or not
Hulu
they just
will
take
not
over,
be Disney streaming service Hulu.
no,
It'll be.
but it could be a possibility that they just kind of throw a lot of their eggs into that basket.
I would imagine that is.
Yeah.
Something
Because
that,
if the subscribers and the R&D is already there, right? Like, why then go off and build your own Rome over here when one's perfectly already built over here?
Yeah, if anything, I see Disney doing something to the effect of essentially cloning Hulu. Haha.
Yeah.
Clone Wars show, right? Cloning Hulu into Disney streaming or Disney Live or Disney. I mean,
Disney
they already
Now
have.
is the name of the current app. So
Right.
I really like that name. If they just upgraded Disney Now into being a paid thing, then
Right.
that'd be fine by me.
Doing that, and then I can see Hulu becoming something that I don't know, how do I want to say this? If you stop putting assets into something that just atrophies, maybe that is what is going to happen to Hulu.
Yes. Yeah, because if you're so the major networks on Hulu are going to be NBC, Fox, and Disney, ABC.
Right.
Those are your major ones. You basically then get all of the assets from FX, so Atlanta, Baskets, Archer, American Horror Story, which sounds weird that Disney would want that on their streaming service, but this is the possibility of the future that we're looking at. Right. So that Simpsons, all of that back catalog and like Futurama even, and then the actual Disney content, right? So all of the Disney movies and Winnie the Pooh, Christopher Robin, live action Beauty and the Beast, all of that.
Right.
In addition to all this other stuff. So that's something they could throw in there, or they could push, because like for a while, like all that stuff, a lot of that stuff was on Hulu, So it's we're in market speculation at this point, but we don't know. So as for when this show will air,
sometime in 2019,
possibly as early as it's definitely not going to be the end of this year. So
yeah.
Especially with Resistance kind of taking forefront.
I know, that's fucking crazy.
Yeah. And then he's also, you have to remember too, he's still he has like a foot in Forces of Destiny as well, which is his own different, much lower budgeted sort of thing anyways. That's a different conversation to have about Forces of Destiny. But
we'll have to talk about Forces of Destiny at some point in time.
At some point. Surely, yeah. We can kind of do a batch review of those episodes, but
right.
That's another.
We've talked about figuring something else or something out with that, but that's not it's not in the forefront of our minds currently.
No.
Like the Clone Wars is. Couple questions for you.
Yeah.
And an update on something I just read, and that is, it looks like hashtag Clone Wars Saved is going to be 12 episodes. So my thoughts that it is going to extend beyond that to an 8th or 9th or 10th season.
You do think so? You don't think it's going to be like a one and done just to wrap things up?
Well, I was going to say that seeing as it is 12 episodes, my hope that it will continue is diminished slightly. But I would not put it past Disney, Star Wars, Kathleen Kennedy, Dave Filoni to produce these 12 episodes. And I would not be surprised if they are pretty much 100% done, ready to go. I bet you there are stories for some more, but I am thinking that these 12 episodes are dipping that toe back in the water and seeing if the ends justify the means of continuing this stuff.
I don't know. Like,
obviously there has to be a finite conclusion to the Clone Wars, as they do not last forever. I mean, it's a 3-year battle essentially.
Yeah.
Right.
And including lost
2-year
missions.
battle? Is that the way it works?
I think it's a 3-year gap between, because it goes from 22 to 19.
Yeah, you're right. I'm thinking of the jump between Empire and
Jedi.
Return of the Jedi is only 2 years.
Yeah. No, it's a 3-year jump, 22 to 19.
Yep.
But I think it was at Celebration Anaheim.
Okay.
Where I went to the Clone Wars panel for that one, and they talked about what they would have done. Or no, sorry. I went to a Rebels panel, and then they brought out Ashley Eckstein. And then they talked about they showed like concept art of what they would have done with Ahsoka's story had they like closed out the final season.
And that was in Anaheim?
Yeah, I think that was in Anaheim. I could be mixing up my two celebrations.
Because I know that you went to the Rebels panel in Orlando.
In Orlando, yeah.
And that's where they showed the first and second episode of season 4?
I think just the first episode. I think it was just like the 22-minute bit. And I think because at that one, the focus was on the fact that it was the last season.
Mm-hmm.
So that's why I'm placing this at Anaheim.
Okay.
Because I also think
sense.
I was there with one of my friends at the time.
Right.
And she had no idea what the fuck Rebels or Clone Wars was.
Awesome.
So I'm sitting there like losing my goddamn mind. I was like, oh, they would have done this? Like, that actually sounds really fucking cool. And I have like a memory of like Ashley Eckstein actually like starting to fucking tear up because, you know, it's a character she had lived with for a while.
Mm-hmm.
And the show gets canceled, and then Dave Filoni reveals like, hey, this is the idea we had for like the closing out of your character's story.
So why don't you share, do you remember any details from
Yeah, so there was some
potential
concept
storyline?
art. It was like, yeah, so the potential storyline was something like Ahsoka was kind of her own hermit, kind of traveling around the galaxy. She had turned away from the Jedi Order, and she therefore would have been kind of discovering herself as she's going along, but trying to keep tabs on her old friends. But the fact that she was separated from her friends was kind of going to be where her arc was headed towards. Like she was going to become the lone samurai who had become she was going to be like the predecessor to Anakin, who became disenfranchised with the Jedi before Anakin himself becomes disenfranchised, but in a much less obviously violent way than Anakin.
Right.
Like they would have walked a parallel path
in different directions.
Yes.
Gotcha.
Which I found very interesting, you know, like that this Padawan and master relationship like seemed to have affected them enough that they both, in their own way, in their own paths, separate from one another, turn their backs on the Jedi Order, right?
Yeah.
So that is the story that was set up by, or Filoni obviously at the time felt comfortable enough, like throwing it out there and being like, "Hey, this was the story we had. It's never gonna fucking be done. So here it is." Whether or not they stick with that, I'm curious about as well.
Yeah. So do you have any predictions based on this trailer of what we may expect in these 12 episodes?
I really think we're just gonna get to the end. Like, I really think we need a reason why certain Jedi survive Order 66.
Okay.
Right. So that was one of the other things that Filoni did kind of bring up, was like, yeah, they would have been fairly forthcoming with how Ahsoka survives execute Order 66 and how that affects her and all that.
I think it's clear enough that like she left the Jedi Order and she's, not necessarily in hiding, but who's there? Who's there to take her out? She doesn't have a platoon of clone troopers with her.
But there's still something about having to wipe out all the Jedi, though, right?
Right. That was Vader's job after. So, like, the clone troopers execute Order 66, right? Boom.
Yeah.
They all turn, quote unquote, however you want to look at that, default to their programming, whatever. They take out their Jedi that they're with.
Yes.
Most of the Jedi were with clone troopers, therefore they were taken out at that time.
Mm-hmm.
Overwhelmed by numbers, however you want to look at it. After the conclusion of Revenge of the Sith, it was Vader's job and some of the other people along with Vader under Palpatine to hunt down Jedi and kill them. Right.
Yeah.
Take them out.
Okay. So...
But
yeah, that's fine.
I think the simple question or the simple answer to how did she survive Order 66 is she wasn't in a place where Order 66 would affect her.
Yes. Okay. That I will go. I think you're right in that. So then the other thing that Filoni did bring up, and we totally got to see in Rebels later on, is the idea that Ahsoka is aware that Order 66 occurs and thinks that Anakin is gone after that purge.
Okay.
Right. They brought up that idea as well, that she would kind of get lost in the universe after that purge. So anyways, that's my way of just saying that I think we have to get to that point. Like there's no way that we're going to extend past 12 episodes without touching on that.
Okay, I'm going to read you a little snippet that has to deal with essentially the proposed 7th and 8th season of the Clone Wars.
Mm-hmm.
This is before #Clone Wars saved. This is before Rebels. This is before anything. This is before Disney. Mm-hmm. This is just Star Wars: The Clone Wars on Cartoon Network.
Yes.
So it says, some of these stories have since been adapted into fun novels like Dark Disciple, excellent comic book series such as Darth Maul, Son of Dathomir, and unfinished story reels that are currently available online. The most important character arcs are those of Ahsoka and Darth Maul. The former, Ahsoka, left the Jedi Order to become a free agent after being framed and was almost sentenced to death at the end of Season 5, while Maul was captured by his former master, Darth Sidious, and escaped in the Son of Dathomir comics. So these were two storylines that would have appeared in season 7 and 8. It goes on to say the presence of Mandalorian Bo-Katan Kryze, maybe? Kryze? Kryze?
Yeah.
But the Mandalorian with Ahsoka in the holo projection in the trailer is this Mandalorian Bo-Katan. And it says this suggests this exchange will lead into the Siege of Mandalore, one of the final battles of the Clone Wars, which was intended to be the climax of the 8th and final season. So this particular article, which is on CNET, suggests that maybe they're going to take at least those two storylines of Ahsoka and Maul and combine them into, or maybe boil them down to 12 episodes, ending with the Siege of Mandalore, which, okay, I fucking love Darth Maul, so give me some more Darth Maul, and we're good to go. Best part of Solo: A Star Wars Story, Darth Maul cameo.
Darth Maul showing up. Yep.
It was anything could have had. The Han Solo could have walked around taking a dump on C-3PO for an hour and a half, and Darth Maul shows up. I'm good. You're
great.
I'm buying this on Blu-ray. Like,
yep. So, yeah, I agree with you that if it extends past 12, I'm not going to be upset if it can sustain. Right? But I am just curious to see if Disney really does push to kind of keep it going past that.
Yeah. I mean, my hope is there, but my expectation is not.
Yeah. Because I feel like all the other media did their jobs kind of picking up. You know, like I haven't gone into them, but like there's the Ahsoka book, you know. And like I said, to me, Rebels really did its job of kind of closing loops, right? I mean, yeah, because it closes out the Rex issues, it closes out Maul, it closes out Ahsoka. Yeah.
How do you feel about Rex potentially being in Return of the Jedi?
I think it makes sense, you know.
Because I feel like Disney's kind of waffled back and forth on whether or not... Like, Dave Filoni said, oh, yeah, that's him. But I don't know that Disney has officially put their stamp on it.
No, it's still vague. It's still vague. That we have more evidence. Again, it's when you can binge the last bits of Rebels. It's, you know, it's heavily implied.
I think it's fucking awesome, to be honest.
Yeah. I think it makes sense, especially with the character design of Rex and the actual actor that we are attributing Rex's look to. Right? Or vice versa, however you want to, whichever direction you want to throw that at.
Right. The physical actor that was in Return of the Jedi could be a bald dude in his whatever age he would be, 70s-ish. He's got a full white beard, mustache, which is the character design that they moved Rex into in Rebels when he was out on his ATTE / deck mobile home deal.
Yeah.
I think it's awesome. I think it's great.
I think it's cool.
Those are, and I've said it 100 times before, those are the things that I love about Star Wars, is like taking this little minute detail and mansplaining it into the ground, right? I mean, that's what our show does, is
absolutely
over explaining this stuff, and there's no benefit to it.
No.
Other than entertainment and nerd value, you know. And I wouldn't even
to me that's the hope that I have for the theme park side of things.
Okay.
Right. While also having like an actual physical
space
around it. Like I'm really intrigued by the idea of fake things becoming real.
Okay. But Star Wars isn't fake. You know that, right?
Right,
Star
yes.
Wars is real.
But just that there's some sort of like physical manifestation, tangible thing in front of me. Because even to some degree, like Star Tours doesn't cut it, you know?
Okay.
Like Star Tours being a simulator ride is like as close as you can get. But to me, it's C-3PO and R2-D2 like in the queue.
Right.
That get me much more excited than the ride itself.
Did you ever see the Star Wars making of VHS that came out, like, I don't know, whenever, way back in the day?
No, I don't believe I have.
I think initially, I got it when I was a kid, I don't know, probably in like 88, 89-ish, by eating a whole bunch of frosted mini wheats and like sending in the UPC labels or whatever.
Yeah.
It is hosted by C-3PO and R2-D2.
Oh.
And C-3PO like tells the story of the success of Star Wars, but he tells it from the point of view of essentially kind of like Star Wars is a documentary of their story. And he's like talking about, because he talks about it being a film on Earth, but he and R2 are still like in a spaceship and there's like shit going on, and like he'll be like, R2, play the clip, and R2 will like spin a dial, and then he'll talk about like what happened on Earth and like why this film was successful. I don't know, I think you would enjoy it.
I'll have to look into that one. It's got to be on YouTube somewhere.
I'm sure it is.
Yeah.
I think I have 2 copies on VHS, but they're mine.
Yeah. So again, just the idea of something not real turned real. Toontown, despite the fact that land has nothing to it.
Right.
I just like the idea that like there's cartoon caricatures or cartoon proportion like cars and houses and stuff, and street lamps that I can like step on, you know.
Okay.
I really like that idea of fantasy turned real.
Right.
Even certain rides like Frozen Ever After at Epcot, you know, it's just a basic retelling of the entire Frozen movie, but there's something about having like an Anna and Elsa animatronic in front of you fucking talking to you.
That's pretty cool.
And like Olaf like bouncing around, you know. Like that ride has some Disney magic to it. There's a Little Mermaid ride that fucking completely sucks balls despite doing exactly what I'm describing in terms of taking the story and just putting it in front of you, but it's such a fucking basic ride. Anyways.
That's because you can't breathe underwater. I'm going to pull you back into the Clone Wars.
Yes. Yeah.
So I had a couple of questions initially at the beginning of this, and it was, what does this mean for the Clone Wars? I think we covered that. You know, we got at least 12 episodes of one season that is coming out potentially in 2019 sometime. Yeah. We kind of discussed a little bit of maybe what we're going to see happening. When do you think it takes place? And you said potentially concurrently with episode 3, Revenge of the Sith. I think it's going to be like directly before that, and it would be a good touch if so where were they right before they came back to the Battle of Coruscant? Do you remember?
No.
Because I don't either.
Because, like, to me, it
was like Outer Rim Sieges or something like that. That sounds familiar. But if, you know, put the fucking end of if you're going to end the Clone Wars and end it definitively, put the end of the last episode, like, Obi-Wan and Anakin, like, headed to wherever they were before they went back to Coruscant. Or you can even do what, like, the Genndy Tartakovsky thing did. And the end of the 2D animated Clone Wars series by Gandhi was the beginning of Revenge of the Sith.
Yeah. Well, here's the thing where episode 12 cannot be that to me, because again, there's the question of what is Ahsoka doing when Execute Order 66 goes down, and that is why I say things have to be concurrent with Revenge of the Sith. I
It's
think
got to
for
start
Anakin,
before it and then extend into it.
something like that, yeah. So for Obi-Wan and Anakin's story, yeah, no, I think leading into Battle of over Coruscant, that makes sense. But as a show with other characters that aren't involved in the movie, I'm gonna need more, right? So that's why I say that I would hope that it's going concurrently. It just depends on the storytelling there. But in terms of just kind of filling in the pockets of this universe with these characters that we know Ahsoka lives well beyond the events of Revenge of the Sith.
Right.
Right. I can't just have her story be concluded prior to the start of Revenge of the Sith and feel satisfied that because if the show is going to talk about the Clone Wars, yes, Revenge of the Sith closes out the Clone Wars, but I think the show can still fill in pockets, that are happening just outside the frame of the movie.
Well, I guess maybe I was thinking that concluding the Clone Wars TV show doesn't necessarily mean concluding Ahsoka's storyline. I mean, we know that her storyline lives on. We know that there is more to tell of Obi-Wan and Anakin.
Yes. No, I'm just saying I need her storyline in the Clone Wars concluded itself. Does that make sense?
Yes.
So, yeah, because she's not in the movie, but the Clone Wars still extends into Revenge of the Sith.
Okay.
There's still going to be pockets of background information that would happen concurrently with episode 3 that I would still kind of personally, if I were to ask a filmmaker to kind of fill in for me, like Ahsoka's story can't conclude a week before Battle of Coruscant and then call it good, right?
Right.
So that's kind of how I'm saying, yeah.
Okay.
Like for Obi-Wan and Anakin, yeah, that's fine because their story is well explored.
Right.
Ahsoka is not.
Okay.
So, yeah. Anyways, we have definitely talked a lot about our theories and expectations or hopes or...
I got more questions for you.
Yeah, do you?
Yeah. What do you think this trailer means for Star Wars Celebration Chicago 2019?
I think...
is this going to be is some sort of Clone Wars going to be a secondary highlight of Star Wars Celebration Chicago?
Oh, yeah,
Because
Clone Wars is getting its own panel for sure, right?
Yeah, I was going to say, I think clearly that we're...
if not
the
Clone
big
Wars,
thing
and
is gonna
animated
be-
as a whole. Yeah.
Yeah. The big thing is going to be episode 9.
Oh, surely,
There.
yeah. So 9 for sure is going to be the top dog there. 9, and I'm going to be bold and say 9 in theme parks.
Okay.
9 in theme parks are going to be the highlight of Chicago in April because, again, Disneyland opens first and all we have is early summer, and then Florida opens with late fall. So that's going to be their big free advertising to get people to go to the parks.
Right.
Right. So just from a business standpoint, that's your big last, that's your baby shower, right?
Mm-hmm.
before you deliver the goddamn thing. 9 is going to be top. Theme park's going to be right under that, and then right below that is going to be everything animation, I think.
Okay. Do you think that they will reveal potentially I guess we'll call it like a 4th animated show? We got Clone Wars, we got Rebels, we got Resistance. Is there going to be another something, or do you think that they're going to announce some type of live action something?
Oh, I think we're going to get whatever Jon Favreau's doing.
Okay. That makes sense.
Because the rumors are that shit's going to start production real soon.
Jon Favreau is going to be coming up in the Clone Wars, by the way.
He's a busy man because he's also directing fucking Lion King right now. So I don't know when the man sleeps, because I can only imagine trying to make the Lion King as a live action, quote unquote live action, but it's still technically 100% animated.
Well, have you seen any like behind the scenes Iron Man shit?
Yes. Yeah.
Watch it again and watch the transformation of Jon Favreau himself, because at the beginning of filming he's like a portly 260 pound guy, and then like by the end of filming he's like 180 fucking pounds and like just looking worn.
Like, yeah. Oh, of course. Yeah. Like, directing a movie is hard, right? Like, it takes a lot of fucking time and work. So, yeah, handling a property like both Star Wars and Lion King, and he's still going to work on Jungle Book 2, I don't... Again, when does this man sleep? So, yeah, animated and Jon Favreau shit at Star Wars Celebration Chicago. I think we'll get a lot of that. So whatever, that the dark horse I think will be Rian Johnson trilogy.
Mm-hmm. I forgot about that. I don't know how I forgot about that.
Because let's do a quick roll call. So we got Rian Johnson trilogy. We have whatever what's his name, WB or the Game of Thrones guys, the two Game of Thrones guys.
Yep. Whatever
the fuck they're doing.
I feel like that's not ever actually going to come of anything, but we'll see.
We'll see. Who knows? I mean, there's clearly a precedent for hiring directors and having nothing come from them. Josh Trank. Just going to throw his name out there.
Keep on. Throw it further.
Well, yeah, because Josh Trank... Well, at Anaheim, because it was supposed to be a Josh Trank and Gareth Edwards panel.
Ooh, that's fun.
And literally, like, with hours to go, like, I think I was waiting in line, and they announced that Josh Trank would not actually be at that panel.
Because he got fired?
Yeah. Or, no, they said that he just wasn't going to be there, and then I think, like, a few days later, they're like, oh, yeah, he's exiting production.
Mm-hmm.
I was like, okay, that makes sense.
People knew, but they didn't announce it beforehand.
Yeah, they didn't want to ruin the party. So, and then we have what's his face who directed The fucking Reader and The Hours, who is directing Obi-Wan.
James Mangold?
Not James Mangold. No, that's the Wolverine guy. James Mangold is the Wolverine guy.
He's the Boba Fett dude.
Fuck yeah, man. Yeah, Boba Fett. Yeah, so don't forget that. It's the director Stephen. No, it's not Stephen Frears. Maybe it is Stephen Frears. No, Stephen Daldry. Stephen Daldry.
Look at
directed
that.
The Reader and The Hours, I believe. It's because like The Hours and The Reader and Atonement are all kind of, and like The King's Speech, they're all kind of like that same British vibe and aesthetic. So I always mix all those directors up. You know, like Love Actually, same. I throw in the same pot as all of that. You know, like just the vaguely British thing. You know, like they may or may not involve Hugh Grant.
Is Hugh Grant going to be at Celebration Chicago?
Just as another random dark horse that just shows up.
Yes.
Yeah. hey man, like if Solo at the very last second could get Paul Bettany in there, right?
Very true.
Who knows, right? Who frickin' knows? Hopefully, like David Tennant will show back up for something. Who knows? So, yeah, there's a lot of potential for Star Wars Chicago to be fucking crazy. Because let's also remember, really quick, one last interruption on Chicago is that it's a 5-day thing this year.
It is.
Like,
is it? It's Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday.
Yeah,
but
it's weird.
Is Thursday? Are they doing like the opening of everything? Or I thought Thursday was like a half
day or whatever.
Yeah, like an evening preview.
Yeah,
day.
I haven't. I forgot to check. All I know is I bought like all 5 fucking days. So.
Yes.
But yeah, you might be right that Thursday is like a preview night or something.
I thought it was like the show floors open,
but nothing else is.
Yeah, but I don't.
You might be right there.
I don't think there's like major panels or anything.
Yeah, but it's still weird that the show is ending on a Monday.
That is very weird.
Like
it's
your closing
probably
ceremony is
the
going to
same
be
thing, like bookended Thursday, Monday by money making days. I don't really know.
Yeah. Like go on the floor and go buy shit, please. Go buy shit.
As long as the food court's open. I guess I don't have a ticket for Thursday, so the food court being open won't be helpful. That being said,
but it's McCormick Place. It's Chicago. You can go get pizza somewhere.
Yeah. That
go get some Lou Malnati's.
One of the probably lowest rungs of the ladder of awesomeness of Star Wars Celebration Chicago is these aren't the nerds you're looking for. We're going to be somewhere on that rung of ladders, even if it's in
attending.
Yeah, we'll be there.
Sleeping on the floor, yeah. So, if you're headed out there, just hunt us down. Like I said, I will be there all 5 days. You have what days again? Friday, Saturday?
Friday, Saturday.
Yeah.
So I think my plan is to go up Thursday.
Oh, okay.
Be there all Friday, be there all Saturday, and come back Sunday.
Nice. Yeah, that's a pretty good plan. Yeah.
So I'm going to pack a book bag and maybe a sleeping bag and
nice.
Hope for the best.
Yeah. Because I will fly in. I think my current plan is to fly in like Tuesday, and then I think come Tuesday, because I'm from Michigan, like 3 hours around the lake, I'll spend a handful of days in Michigan, spend some time with some friends and family. And then,
nice.
Yeah. Because I would feel bad if I just went to Chicago and that was it, and then blasted out of there.
Right.
But that's my own personal guilt to bear. So
yeah, I'll just tell. I'm not going to tell my family in Chicago that I'm going to be in Chicago.
Yeah, that's fine. That's
we'll
fine.
Go that route.
Yeah. But I am looking forward to Celebration Chicago, but I am really, we've talked about this, I'm really fucking hoping that they get their shit together versus what happened in Orlando.
Yeah, well, I mean, there was a good turnaround from Thursday in Orlando and Saturday in Orlando.
Oh, yeah, surely.
But Thursday was not a great day.
No.
But I think just to get in the doors was
it's like its own weird clusterfuck.
Like 4 hours.
Yeah, that's a fucking hot mess. Like the Chicagoans, I feel like would riot before they let something like that happen. Mm-hmm. So,
like my expectations are fully there when you and I waited in line for The Last Jedi. We got in line Thursday night for something that happened Friday morning. And the expectation there is to wait and camp and do what you need to do.
Yeah.
But just for general admission to get in the fucking building,
no.
During the day,
4 hours just to try and walk the floor is
not
beyond
good.
Ridiculous. So hopefully they fix any and all of that business. So, but I find it curious that Disney's own D23 Expo already takes place every other year.
Mm-hmm.
I find it really interesting that for the two...
Like, why didn't they alternate them?
Yeah, alternate Star Wars and D23 Expo, because we're going to get Star Wars in April, and then we're going to get D23 basically a year from now in August.
Right.
But again, that's a pretty good 1-2 punch. That's what happened last year, right?
Mm-hmm.
In April, we got Last Jedi stuff, and then by the time we got to D23, that's when we were introduced to the world of like Porgs.
Yeah, I was surprised that there wasn't some Star Wars Celebration in the greater Eurasian area in 2018.
Yes, yeah. But again, we're in that weird middle gap where like Solo's already out, and you know, like there's nothing else to talk about, I guess. So
yeah,
I guess they knew that.
I guess I agree with you.
Yeah,
because the Celebration 4 was in Anaheim, then 5 and 6 were in Orlando, and then but I think between 4 and 5 there was Europe, and between 5 and 6 there was Japan. And then there was one in Germany, right?
Yeah.
Before the third. How many have been in Orlando? 3 or 4?
I have no idea, actually, honestly.
3. I think 3. So, I don't know. We're starting to get off base here. I got one more question for you.
Go for it, yeah.
Then I'll let everybody go. And that's simply how we close up every episode. And thumbs up, thumbs down, man.
Oh, as a trailer teaser goes, this is a solid thumbs up. This is a well put together teaser for sure.
I agree.
Right? Like as teasers go, yeah. I mean, again, my lack of excitement is only because I got the news first and then it percolated with me before I got to the trailer.
That's
right?
because you went to the wrong panel. That's
no,
why.
I went to the right panel. It was the first time that a Doctor Who was being introduced before we saw any footage of her. And it was her first public appearance, period. Yeah. Ever. And it's the first lady Doctor. And I was all about that one. That one, like, I cried during the Doctor Who panel because there were a shit ton of women that were like, look, this is great. And this is great that I'm getting represented. I'm like, oh, shit. That's fantastic.
Yeah, it is fantastic.
And we know nothing about this character, really, you know. So, God willing, she doesn't suck. I'm sure it'll be fine. And we don't have a Captain Phasma situation on our hands.
You never know. She may be back for episode 9. She's probably Rey's mom.
Yeah, we never saw her die. Like, if this is my rule, right? This is a rule from horror movies. If you don't see them die on screen, they aren't dead.
I don't know. I've seen Jason die quite a few times.
That is true. He's the supernatural exception, but like Scream 3, Roman is dead, but you don't see him die on screen. It's just when Parker Posey or Courtney Cox opens a coffin and his bloody corpse is in there. Nope, he's the killer. Spoiler alert. Wolverine, the first one, the shitty X-Men Origins Wolverine, his girlfriend dies off screen, and then an hour and a half later, there she is. She's the bad guy for some weird fucking reason. I don't fucking know.
I love how you call X-Men Origins Wolverine the first one.
The first of the Wolverine trilogy, I suppose I mean.
Yeah.
I will always refer to it as the shitty one. So
it's all right.
Yeah.
I'm gonna watch that tomorrow.
It's so bad. It's so bad, and yet it's somehow still worse than even X-Men Apocalypse. I didn't even like that one. The X-Men franchise is very interesting.
Yeah, we'll have to talk about that at another date.
Anyways, anything else as we close out Clone Wars Saved?
Well, we don't get to say cue loud music, so I'll have to skip that one. But, yeah, if you haven't seen it yet, I don't know why you would have listened to us for the last hour and 20 minutes.
Yeah.
But,
we
go watch it. I do have one more thing. Sorry to cut you off.
Go ahead.
The average viewership of the Clone Wars when they aired on TV, I believe is around 2.29 million. Nope, 1.99 million is the average. The YouTube video of just the trailer that I just watched, 6.8 million. So obviously viewer numbers are for the first run when they're on TV, and doesn't include all rewatches and everything, but I thought it was interesting that 6.8 million people have already, or the trailer's been viewed 6.8 million times. So that tells me that the interest is there.
The interest is definitely there for sure. And Comic-Con was an interesting place to drop that for sure. Especially because, like I mentioned to you, they picked a weird time. It was during Doctor Who stuff. They also were in a weird small room. They were like in 6A, which is why I kind of brushed that off. I didn't expect any news out of that because the presentation itself was billed as a 10th anniversary celebration of Clone Wars. Right? So that's why. And also, by the time I went to John Barrowman, that was like an hour and a half after Doctor Who had ended,
right?
I think so. That's why I was kind of in shock at the flurry of news I got from you and my friend Greg as I was coming out of John Barrowman. But I think we're in a different world now too, whereas Clone Wars was coming off of the end of what we thought was all Star Wars. And it was on a network that definitely is going to be different than the streaming world that we have nowadays, right?
Yeah, it's going to be interesting.
So I am curious to see how this all goes, and especially when we're in a world where we will have Resistance, we have Forces of Destiny will potentially continue on, as well as more little side nuggets of information in the Star Wars universe, and then Clone Wars gets reintroduced in that as well, right?
Yeah, I'm excited. Even if it sucks and it's terrible, I'm excited to see what Dave Filoni's got in store.
Do you think there'll be more Jar Jar?
The day that I saw... Do you know where this is going? The day that I saw the trailer, I texted you a bunch. I texted some of my other friends. I tweeted out a couple of things, one of which was to Ahmed Best. And I think it said something like, hashtag Clone Wars saved. Does this mean Jar Jar's back? Because it wouldn't be Star Wars without you, I believe is what I said to Mr.
Very
Best.
Nice. Very nice.
He did not reply, so I have no insider information.
As far as I have heard and read, I believe he's ready to leave it all behind.
He's been working on a thing about... It's like he's been working on a one-man show, which I think has to do, partially at least, with the experience of Star Wars fandom.
Of course. Yeah, because once you're in, it's going to be rough. So, all right. And anything else?
That's it.
Yeah. We went very long on this one.
Hey, shout out to Lindsay, strangefantasymusic@gmail.com. Shout out to Kevin at They Call Me K-Dub on Twitter. Shout out to Lorenzo. And, hashtag Clone Wars saved.